The White House has sent shockwaves across the nation after officially confirming that a brand new round of direct relief payments, this time in the form of $4,000 stimulus checks, is being rolled out specifically for seniors and low-income families, a move that has already sparked intense debates, wild celebrations, and no small amount of confusion. According to administration insiders, the relief measure is aimed at providing a much-needed lifeline to households still grappling with skyrocketing living costs, inflation that continues to squeeze wallets at the grocery store and gas pump, and the lingering aftereffects of a sluggish recovery for America's most vulnerable groups. While previous stimulus rounds targeted broad swaths of the population, this unprecedented package zeroes in on those who have been hit the hardest. Retirees on fixed incomes watching their Social Security checks shrink in purchasing power, and working families struggling to make ends meet despite juggling multiple jobs. The announcement, made in a press conference that immediately lit up social media feeds and cable news chyrons, is being hailed by some as a bold, compassionate act of governance and by others as a politically motivated gamble ahead of a contentious election cycle. Regardless of interpretation, the promise of a direct $4,000 payment has already set the stage for one of the most dramatic policy rollouts in recent memory. Administration officials were quick to stress that this is not simply another one-off payment, but part of a larger relief strategy designed to stabilize household finances while also injecting momentum into the wider economy. Sources claim that the checks will be issued in two installments, $2,000 upfront, followed by an additional $2,000 within months, allowing recipients to stretch their benefits over a longer period rather than burn through a single lump sum. This phased approach, they argue, will help shield vulnerable populations from economic shocks and reduce the risk of immediate inflationary pressure. Seniors, particularly those reliant on Social Security, have been cited as key beneficiaries, as many find themselves forced to choose between essentials like medication, heating, and groceries. Low-income families, meanwhile, stand to gain critical relief just as the costs of rent, childcare, and food reach historic highs. Early polling already shows a surge of approval among these demographics, though skeptics remain wary about how quickly the money can be delivered and whether it will truly bridge the financial gaps so many face daily. Adding fuel to the fire is the question of timing. Critics argue that the White House is conveniently pushing the stimulus package as campaign season heats up, with some analysts calling it a direct play to sway senior voters and economically vulnerable households in key swing states. Opponents on Capitol Hill have been quick to raise alarms over the potential price tag, estimating the relief could run into the hundreds of billions, a figure that fiscal conservatives warn will balloon the national debt. Still, administration aides insist that the funding mechanism will be balanced through a combination of reallocated federal budgets, targeted tax reforms, and strategic cuts in defense spending, making the program both sustainable and urgent. What cannot be ignored is the level of excitement spreading online, as hashtags like #4000relief and #stimulus for seniors trend across platforms, with countless Americans sharing what this unexpected financial break could mean for them. From covering overdue utility bills to finally scheduling long-delayed medical treatments, stories are pouring in from every corner of the country, painting a vivid picture of desperation met with sudden hope. Behind the scenes, preparations for distribution are already underway. The Treasury Department, working closely with the IRS, has reportedly been tasked with ensuring that checks hit bank accounts and mailboxes as early as possible, with initial projections pointing to late fall for the first wave of payments. Priority will be given to those already enrolled in federal assistance programs or receiving Social Security benefits, meaning millions could see relief automatically deposited without needing to lift a finger. For low-income families not currently tied into federal systems, a streamlined application process is being promised, with officials vowing to cut through red tape and avoid the bureaucratic nightmares that plagued earlier stimulus efforts. If these promises hold true, the rollout could mark a turning point in how government aid is delivered, shifting toward efficiency and accessibility rather than delay and confusion. Of course, the proof will be in execution, and memories of past glitches, crashed websites, delayed checks, and ineligible recipients slipping through cracks still loom large in the public's mind. Yet, even as logistical questions swirl, the emotional impact of the announcement cannot be overstated. For seniors living on the brink, many of whom have watched their retirement dreams collapse under the weight of rising expenses, the confirmation of $4,000 in direct aid feels like a lifeline thrown at the 11th hour. For parents working long hours just to afford basic groceries, the stimulus could mean finally catching up on rent or giving their children a stable environment after months of uncertainty. While politicians and pundits argue over the macroeconomic implications, the immediate human stakes are crystal clear. The administration has gambled that direct financial relief will not only alleviate suffering, but also win back trust in government's ability to respond effectively to crises. Whether this move cements a lasting legacy of compassion or devolves into yet another partisan battleground remains to be seen. But one thing is undeniable. The $4,000 stimulus checks have already redefined the conversation about what bold, decisive action looks like in modern America. If the first part of this stunning announcement set the nation buzzing with questions and cautious optimism, the second wave of details revealed by the White House has only heightened the drama surrounding the $4,000 stimulus checks for seniors and low-income families. Officials are now painting this package as more than just a short-term fix. Instead, they're framing it as the centerpiece of a sweeping relief plan designed to bridge the widening gap between America's haves and have-nots. At the heart of the strategy lies a simple, emotionally powerful message. No senior should be forced to choose between food and medicine, and no parent should have to skip meals so their child can eat. This framing has captured the imagination of millions, fueling hope that this long-awaited relief could finally be the spark that shifts the economic tides for households that have endured years of hardship. Supporters argue that the scale of this direct aid is nothing short of historic, with some commentators even calling it the most consequential economic relief move since the New Deal. Meanwhile, skeptics continue to hammer away at what they see as an unsustainable handout, warning that short-term comfort may come at the cost of long-term economic stability. The tug-of-war over perception is fierce, but in the meantime, Americans on the ground are laser-focused on one thing. When will the money actually arrive in their pockets? The administration has clarified that the first installment of $2,000 is expected to begin rolling out in just weeks, with priority given to seniors already linked to Social Security systems. This, they promise, will ensure that the most vulnerable receive immediate relief without being bogged down in lengthy application processes. For families in low-income brackets, however, the picture is more complicated. Officials say they will be launching an online portal where households can verify eligibility and enter payment details, backed up by community outreach programs at libraries, local aid centers, and even post offices. The government is keenly aware that digital access remains a barrier for many, particularly seniors and rural families, so they're emphasizing phone hotlines and paper applications as well. In fact, the administration has vowed to leave no family behind, rolling out a publicity campaign designed to make sure every eligible household knows how to claim their share of the $4,000 relief. Critics, however, point to the rocky rollouts of earlier stimulus programs as evidence that promises of smooth execution should be taken with a grain of salt. They warn that bottlenecks, scams, and technical glitches could quickly erode trust if not handled with precision. Adding to the intrigue, whispers from within Washington suggest that this program could serve as a test case for more permanent direct cash relief initiatives. While not officially confirmed, the $4,000 stimulus checks could represent the first step toward a more radical reimagining of how the federal government supports its most vulnerable. Naturally, this has inflamed partisan divides even further, with conservatives warning that permanent payouts would disincentivize work and bankrupt the Treasury, while progressives celebrate the possibility of finally delivering economic justice in a tangible, straightforward way. For everyday Americans, though, the ideological battle matters less than the simple reality. A deposit in their account could mean keeping the lights on for another month, paying off overdue bills, or finally being able to buy a long overdue pair of glasses. What makes this particular rollout even more compelling is the raw, emotional response it has triggered across the country. Social media platforms are overflowing with personal stories from seniors who say the check will allow them to fill critical prescriptions or visit doctors they've avoided for months. Parents are posting heartfelt messages about how $4,000 could finally allow them to buy winter clothes for their children or fix the car that keeps breaking down on the way to work. Veterans, disabled workers, and caretakers of elderly relatives are chiming in with their own accounts of financial strain, each underscoring the urgent need for help. These stories have gone viral, turning the stimulus debate into not just a policy discussion, but a national movement defined by real, relatable human struggles. The administration has been quick to amplify these stories, presenting them as evidence that the checks are more than numbers on a balance sheet, they're lifelines. And yet, behind the celebratory headlines lies a simmering undercurrent of uncertainty. Lawmakers are already gearing up for heated fights over how to pay for the package, with some predicting government shutdown threats if agreements can't be reached. Economists, too, are divided. Some argue that injecting this level of direct cash will bolster consumer confidence and stabilize local economies, while others caution that it could reignite inflationary flames just as the Federal Reserve tries to cool things down. For now, the White House appears willing to bet that the immediate political and humanitarian benefits outweigh the risks, but that gamble could either solidify their legacy or haunt them in the years to come. One thing is undeniable. The $4,000 stimulus checks have gripped the attention of a nation weary from years of financial turbulence. For seniors who have felt forgotten and families who have long fallen through the cracks, the confirmation of this aid feels like a long overdue recognition of their struggles. Whether the plan rolls out seamlessly or stumbles into chaos, it has already achieved one powerful effect. It has reignited hope. Hope that, at least for a fleeting moment, the government can put politics aside and put people first. As the first checks prepare to be printed and the countdown begins, all eyes are on Washington, waiting to see whether this promise of relief will transform from headlines into reality. For millions standing at the edge of financial ruin, the stakes could not be higher, and the outcome will likely be remembered as a defining moment in America's ongoing battle with economic inequality.